And joining us now from TMZ is Harvey Levin. Harvey, good to see you.
Hey, Alex.
So USC is in the midst of what may be the worst year in the history of the school. We have this college admissions scandal, and now you're saying there's sort of hysteria on campus. Explain what do you mean?
Well, that was the word used by people connected with student government there to us. We found out that 60 students, and this is what we know of, so far 60 students have been referred to the Student Judicial Council for possible discipline by other students who believed that those 60 somehow didn't meet the qualifications to get into the school, that they weren't good enough but got in anyway. So the Judicial Council, and this kind of surprised me, but we found out they've investigated all of them and dismissed 57 of them like that because they said they were baseless. They're still looking at 3, but one of the people who's kind of involved in all of this said it's just unbelievable, but he said everybody's ratting everybody else out.
So is it basically people thinking, God, this guy or this girl doesn't seem that smart. What are you doing here? I mean, what is this suspicion based off of?
I think you're right. I mean, I think part of it is just that, you know, there are a lot of people who think somebody's a dim bulb and he or she couldn't have gotten in on the merits, so they must have done something like Lori Loughlin.
Well, and then you also have the letter from USC's student government saying that when it comes to Lori Loughlin's kids, that they didn't want to have any part of that because it was too complicated for them.
Well, yeah, it says complicated, but I think controversial is a more appropriate word. So yes, on March 14th, the members of the Student Judicial Council were called to the administration offices of the provost, and they were told, stand down when it comes to Lori Loughlin's 2 daughters, that they would be handling it, and the Student Council agreed to, the Student Judicial Council agreed to do it. But clearly, they are looking at these 2 as different from the rest because of all of the publicity that, for better or worse, Lori Loughlin and her daughters are now the face of this scandal. And I think the administration realizes it. And what you said a few minutes ago is absolutely true. I mean, they are going through a horrible time at USC. And I think what they're trying to do is kind of plug the holes as best they can. And they don't want this outside of their reach.
Right, because in this last year, we've had the campus gynecologist having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on that story, not to mention students dying off campus because they were shot in robbery attempts. Now we find out that there's going to be a new president, just announced today, Carol Folt. What are you hearing about this new president and the challenges that she now faces?
Well, I mean, look, you know, it's funny you say, the challenges that she faces are almost cookie cutter in a way to me. And what I mean by that is this, that, you know, I have now done this job, it feels like 100 years, but it's been 14, which is still a long time. And what I have noticed in my job over the years is that people take a snapshot of a scandal and think it will define a university, a person, that way forever. And it is almost never the case, almost never the case. And it's almost like the media looks at something, gets obsessed with it, and then finds another bright, shiny object and then ignores what happened. And then over time, people's memories fade. And I really believe that if USC can, you know, run the course here and, you know, right the wrong, and, you know, in a couple of years, if nothing else surfaces, they'll weather this storm. I mean, USC's been around a long, long time. This too shall pass. I mean, it's not a good thing, but it won't define the university either. I'm just confident of that.
You have such a sophisticated knowledge of the way that the media works. What would your advice be to this new president as she now walks into dealing with so many different problems at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to be in a position to give specific advice, but the general advice I would give is that don't react to every headline, to everything you hear. You know, don't be reactive. Base what you do on what you think is right. And what I've found is when people do that, when they have their own compass and they ignore all the noise around them, and I spoke at USC on Monday. I heard a lot of the noise, and there's noise everywhere on this thing. And if you listen to the noise and you react to this and you react to this and you react to this, it's a mess. I mean, it's not clear what you're doing. What you got to do is you got to figure out a game plan. You got to stay the course, and I'm not saying ignore what is going on around you, but don't react to everything. And you know, when you look at crisis PR firms, when you look at people in my business, I've seen producers where their shows are about to tank and 1 million people are telling them what to do. And the successful ones who bring it back are the ones who have a vision and execute the vision. And I think that's, you know, it's cookie cutter in a way. That is what I think she needs to do. I'm not going to get into specifics because I would never pretend to say it, but I think that's a general battle plan.
Well, and as somebody who spends a lot of time on campus and who just talked with some of the professors of Olivia Jade over the weekend, I feel like a lot of people on campus feel like they've been yo-yoed back and forth and they're ready for some clarity. And so let's hope that this new president can bring some relief to the campus.
I agree. Are you telling me that I shouldn't have told those 3 jokes when I started my lecture on Monday?
Yes, mocking the football team is probably due based off of the record, and that's one of the other problems that a new president's going to have to deal with as they come into this job. All right, Harvey Levin, the founder and still the head of TMZ, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Alex.